Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Today we are in Chapter 11, Lesson 5, and we are talking about how inches, feet, and yards relate to each other. And our essential question, is how can I measure objects? How do feet and inches and yards all relate to each other? So in our directions for this, it asked that we went around the classroom and measured things, but we're not in the classroom today. So I just went ahead and wrote down some of the measurements for us. So let's look at the desk first. I said that the desk was 24 inches, and it wants to know how many feet is 24 inches. So if you remember the ruler was 12 inches. In 1 foot, I'm going to write that right up here, or one ruler, which is 12 inches usually, equals 1 foot, okay? Now, if we look at a yardstick, there's 3 feet in a yardstick. We know that. Equals a yardstick. Okay, so how many inches is that? It would be 12 3 times, or 36 inches. So let's go back to our desk. We know that the desk is 24 inches. So how many feet is that going to be? Well, if we were in the classroom together, I would have asked you to use a ruler to measure the desk, and you would have found that you needed 2 rulers. Now, knowing that 1 ruler is 1 foot, 2 rulers is 2 feet. Okay, let's look at our door. Let's say our door is 48 inches. So I've written 48 inches. Now we need to figure out how many feet that is. Again, if we were in the classroom, you would be able to have seen that you used 3 rulers, but we're not in the classroom. So here's something that we could also do to find out how many feet. It requires a little bit of subtraction, and it's repeated subtraction, which later on you'll learn that repeated subtraction is the same as division. So you're getting a little early start on that. So we're going to start with 48. We're going to take away 1 foot. Remember, 1 foot is 12 inches. So let's take away 8, take away 2, which is 6, right? 4, take away 1. So here we've taken away 1 foot. Okay, now we're at 36 inches. We're going to take another foot away. Remember, 12 more inches. So now 6 minus 2 is 4. 3 minus 1 is 2. Now we have 2 feet, right? We still have more inches. We're going to keep repeated subtraction until we get to 0. And then we're going to count back how many times we took away a foot, and we'll know how many feet there are in 48 inches. Okay, so let's subtract another 12. 4 minus 2 is 2. 2 minus 1 is 1. Now, we've subtracted 3 feet. We have a 12 left, so we're going to subtract 12. We get to 0. Remember, 12 is 1 foot. So how many feet? 1, 2, 3, 4. Or how many times we subtracted a foot? 4 feet. You'll start to get to learn what 48 inches is 4 feet and that 24 inches as 2 feet. You should recognize 24 as a double fact, right? 12 plus 12 is 24. If not, you should definitely learn that one. But you'll start to remember, the more times you do it, that 48 inches is 4 feet. So let's try the bookshelf. Let's say that the bookshelf is 36 inches. Well, how many feet is 36 inches? We could do the same thing. Let's see if we have a little bit of room right here. I'm going to take 36. I'm going to subtract a foot, which is 12 inches, right? We did the same thing over here. 36 minus 12, we already did it. So let's just transfer it over here. So now we've subtracted 1 foot there. Let's subtract another foot, another 12 inches. Again, this is the same thing. I don't want to confuse you as this. We get 24 minus 12 is 12. Now we've subtracted 2. We have 12 left. If we subtract 12 more, we'll get to 0, and we subtracted 3 times. So 36 is the same as 3 feet. Okay? The most important thing to remember is what I put up here, right at the top of the page. 12 inches equals 1 foot. 36 inches equals 3 feet, or 1 yardstick, or 1 yard, right? So 1 yard is 3 feet. 1 foot is 12 inches. Okay? I'll keep saying that over and over because that's something that I want you guys and that you guys need to learn in order to figure out how to measure things and to convert inches into feet, which is what we're doing today. Okay, so let's turn to the next page, page 672. Okay, let's look at the top of page 672. You can use different units of length to measure the same objects. So here it says the hockey stick is 48 inches long. There's our hockey stick. It is 4 feet long. So we can either say that the hockey stick is 48 inches, or we can say that the hockey stick is 4 feet long. It means the same thing. Because look over here at the little bubble. It reminds us that there's 12 inches in 1 foot and 3 feet in 1 yard. Okay, let's take a look at number 1. We're looking at the desk. I found that the desk was 3 feet long. Now remember what 3 feet is in yards. Look back up at our bubble. If it's 3 feet long, that means it's the same as 1 yard. So we're going to write 1 yard right there. Okay, let's look at our chalkboard. And let's just say that our chalkboard, this is going to be an unusually tall chalkboard. It's going to be 6 yards long or tall. If we have 6 yards, how many feet is our chalkboard? Well, remember that 3 feet was 1 yard. So if we have 6, that means it's 2 feet tall. Okay, remember that there's 12 inches in 1 foot and 3 feet in 1 yard. So think of the ruler, that's 12 inches. Think of a yardstick, that's 1 yard or 3 feet. 3 feet and 1 yard, exactly the same. Okay, let's turn to the next page, page 673. Okay, let's look at the top of page 673. They want you to find each object, measure the length of each object twice. Okay, so I'm not going to have you worrying about running around your house and measuring things. Instead, I've plugged in a few numbers, and together we are going to figure out how many inches, feet, or yards these things are. So the first thing is the bookshelf. Now I said that the bookshelf is 2 feet tall. So we have to remember, if we're going to convert it into inches, how many inches are in 1 foot? So do you remember how many inches are in 1 foot? If you said 12, you were right. So what we're going to do, since there's 2 feet, we're going to add 12 plus 12, and that will bring us to how many inches. And if you remember your doubles facts, you know that 12 plus 12 is 24. So the bookshelf is 24 inches tall. All right, let's look at the book, number 4. Number 4, I said the book was 12 inches. Okay, so do you remember how many inches are in 1 foot? I just said it. It's 12. So if the book is 12 inches tall, that means it's 1 foot tall. Okay, let's look at number 5, the door. Okay, I said the door was about 3 feet across. So here, they wanted to measure this way. I said 3 feet. So do we remember how many feet are in 1 yard? If you said 3, you were right. So that means the door is 1 yard. Okay, let's look at the teeter-totter over here in number 6. They wanted to measure across. I said it was about 3 yards. So first we have to remember how many feet are in 1 yard. If you said 3, you were right. So if there's 3 feet in 1 yard, we're going to skip count. I'm going to pretend this is 1 yard, 2 yards, and 3 yards. We're going to skip count by 3 to figure out how many feet. 3, 6, 9. So it's 9 feet because remember, there are 3 feet in 1 yard. Okay, I know it might sound confusing, but the more you say it and the more we do it, it'll start to stick. Up at the top, I'm going to write what they are, just so that you can see them as we're going along. Okay, so if you remember that there's 12 inches equals 1 foot. Now remember, that's the length of a ruler. So think 12 inches, a ruler, 1 foot. Okay, now a yard is 3 feet. So there's 3 feet or 3 rulers in 1 yardstick. Okay, so that's what we need to remember. Okay, the slide. I said the slide was 12 feet. They want to know how many yards is 12 feet. So how am I going to figure out? I know that there are 12 inches in 1 foot. How many feet are in a yard? There's 3 feet in 1 yard. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to draw a number line down here. We're going to pretend that this is 12 feet. I'm going to skip count by 3 until I get to 12. So I'm going to start here. 3, 6, 9, 12. And you don't have to draw the line. You could do this on your fingers. You can skip count by 3 and count fingers. So now I'm going to go back and see how many times I skip counted. 1, 2, 3, 4. That means that there was 4 yards in 12 feet. Okay, let's do one last one on this page. The computer. So from here to here, I said the computer was 24 inches. Well, how many feet does that mean? So remember what I told you about one way to figure this out if you're not sure and you get a big number? And if you do remember, from the top of the page, hint, hint, how many feet are in 24 inches, you can go ahead and write it down. But if you're not sure, you can take 24. We're going to subtract 1 foot. Remember, that's 12 inches. 4 minus 2 is 2. 2 minus 1 is 1. I'm going to subtract another foot, which will bring me to 0, right? Here's 1 foot and 2 feet. So there are 2 feet in 24 inches. Okay, let's turn to the back of the page, page 674, and let's do some word problems. Okay, let's start at the top at number 9. You can read with me. Sheridan's scooter is 3 feet long. Sage's scooter is 38 inches long. Whose scooter is longer? Okay, let's draw this one out. So I'm going to first draw Sheridan's scooter. So here's Sheridan's scooter. That is 3 feet. Now, do you remember how many yards are in a feet? 3 feet, that's 1 yardstick, right? And if you remember that there are 12 inches in 1 foot, that means if I add 12 plus 12 plus 12, and you guys know how to do this, add that all together, I will find out how many inches there are in 3 feet. So let's add 2 plus 2, that's 4, plus 2, 4 plus 2 is 6. Now I can add my tens, 10, 20, 30. 36 inches in 3 feet. Well, Sage's scooter is 38 inches. So whose scooter is longer? Because if this is 36 inches here, and this is 38, whose is longer? 38 is bigger than 36, right? That means Sage. I'm going to put Sage's. I don't have room to put Sage's scooter, but you can just write Sage's. Okay, so see how I had to figure out how many inches were in 3 feet to understand which one was longer? Now, if you start to remember that 3 feet is 36 inches, then you don't have to go through all of that adding foot by foot by foot. But if you don't remember, that's okay. Or if you want to double check your work, you can add the feet, right? Or use the subtraction, the repeated subtraction method. Okay, let's look at number 10. The low diving board is 8 feet long. The high diving board is 4 yards long. How many feet longer is the high diving board? Okay, so for this one, I'm going to highlight what we know because I'm going to separate some of this information. So we know that the low diving board is 8 feet long. The high diving board is 4 yards long. They want to know how many feet longer is the high diving board? Okay, so I have feet here and yards over there. In order to find out how many feet longer one is than the other, I need to have them both using the same unit of measure. So I need to find out how many feet are in 4 yards. So remember, for this one, I'm going to use... Okay, you have to remember how many feet are in that yardstick. Okay, so we have 4 yards here. So I'm going to go, whoops. Okay, so here's 1 yard. And then 2 yards, 3 yards, and 4 yards. So do you remember how many feet are in a yard? There was 3, right? So I'm going to skip count by 3 until I get to the end here. Because remember, this was 1 yard, 2 yard, 3 yards, 4 yards. So 3, 6, 9, 12. So now I know that this diving board over here is 12 feet long. Okay, now I can answer the question because they want to know how many feet longer is the high diving board. Well, if the high diving board is 12 feet and the low diving board is 8 feet, I'm going to need to find the difference, right? Whenever they ask which one is longer, they're asking for the difference. So now I can take my 12 feet, I could subtract the low diving board, which was 8 feet, right? And 12 minus 8 is 4. Okay, so now let's answer the question. How many feet longer is the high diving board? 4 feet. Okay, number 11. Read it with me. The green bike is 1 yard long. The yellow bike is 38 inches long. Which bike is shorter? All right, let's go back and highlight what we know. Okay, the green bike is 1 yard long. The yellow bike is 38 inches long. Which bike is shorter? Now, this one sure does look a lot like the one that we did number 9, right? So let's see. The green bike is 1 yard long. Do you remember how many inches? Because we need to either turn our inches into yard, or we need to go yards into inches, because these two need to be the same unit in order to figure it out, okay? At least for these problems early on. So I know that 1 yard is 3 feet. So remember way up here when I added inches to get to feet, I added 3 feet. 12 plus 12 plus 12. That was 36 inches. So in 1 yard, you have 36 inches. So the green bike is 36 inches. The yellow bike is 38 inches. Which bike is shorter? Well, 36 is smaller than 38, right? So that would mean that the green bike is smaller. Okay, so I'm not going to have you write the right math, but I want you to think about how the measurements of an object change depending on which unit you measure, right? So if you're measuring something in inches, the number is going to be higher than if you measure it in feet or in yards. Inches is the smaller unit of measure. Then we have feet, and then we have yards. So if you're measuring something small, you typically want to measure that in inches, something like a pencil. If you're measuring something larger, like a bookcase, you might want to measure that in feet. And if you're measuring something really big, like a football field or a soccer field, you want to measure that in yards, okay? And that's it. So why don't you go ahead and do your homework. Do what you can as far as the measuring. Hopefully you do have something you can measure with. And I'll see you guys on the next lesson.